May from Markets with May, and today I have a real treat. One of the things that a lot of folks don't realize that I do in the background is I'll talk to folks that I think are just really, really great on industry and pick their brain, because so much of what I do is read 10Ks, listen to what the company management say. I listen to earnings calls all the time, but then I have to kind of try to figure out, how does the landscape lay out? And today I have one of my favorite people to talk to, which is David Noles, who's the founder and publisher of AN Publishing. I'm going to let him do his own introduction because I find him to be such a fascinating person, but he really does know the media space. So we are going to cover today Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Google, and then pretty much anything else in the media space that comes up. And the goal of today is to try to have this kind of conversation to give you a sense for and you guys should absolutely put questions in the chat. But we're just going to talk about what's happening in the landscape of media, because right now, strategically, what's going on is just so insane, intense, and crazy. And there's going to be winners and actual true take an L complete losers in this space. And it's not going to be a function of just who's the biggest and who's got the most money at this point, because most of them are burning cash. All right, with that, I'm going to bring David to share the stage with me. Hey, David, I would love for you to introduce yourself to people.
So, hello, everybody. So, my name is David Noles. I am the founder of AM Digital Media Brands. And one of the digital media brands that has brought me here is our application called A Hot Set, which focuses on covering people of color across the domestically and internationally. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to have some discussions about the business side of the media world and on the markets. Thank you.
That's amazing. I think you're going easy on your background, though. I mean, AN Publishing is just a really fantastic, huge mix of brands. I will definitely post the link later after the replay so you guys can link through and check out AN Publishing. But they really curate some gorgeous articles and photography. So some of the fun stuff that I always talk to David about is how aggressively this landscape is changing in media, particularly on the film side, since I know so many of you are my AMC folks. But if we think about it, the end product of AMC really is these film companies. And so let's start with Disney, because Disney has been nothing but drama these days. We were just having a conversation about it. Why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about how you're thinking about Bob Eisner and the revisitation comeback to Disney?
To the earnings call, what I want to say about Bob is that Bob made me feel secure in the right direction, because obviously one of the chief complaints under Bob Chapek was had his foot on the neck of the creatives. The creatives were not very happy, and you can't have and produce billion-dollar projects that we have seen come out of Disney, right? Without allowing the creatives to make the kinds of content that they know is going to, resonate with audience on a domestic level and both on an international level. So him speaking about giving them is important. And something I was also mentioning is that Bob came from the side and then worked his way up into, an executive position. So when you have a combination of an understanding of the creative side of business, the production side of business, and someone who on the corporate side of business, right, then you have what you call, what's the term? We have a unicorn there, right? That's your unicorn. This is the one person who knows how to do both. And Bob Chapek, individual, he comes from the corporate background, and I've seen this happen in many big media companies where they're understanding of the entertainment industry or the media world, but they just come from being, no name corporation, right? And so they understand how to manage, a big business skill set than it is to understand how to work the entertainment industry. So for me, with Bob and where they're going to be going within the next 2 years. And the last thing I'll say before I turn it back to you, I'm going to be there 2 years. So he has to turn the ship around, and at the same time, he has to prepare for the position.
And we got a little bit of choppiness with your Wi-Fi. I'm not sure if there's a way to amp that up or close down some things to try to give yourself a little more Wi-Fi power. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's been completely missing on the news flow, is like this whole idea. I think people think he said it in passing, but the restructuring of Disney is going to be super duper important. I'm going to try to do it like this. I'm going to do this chat overlay. We got a little bit of a sound issue on your side. I don't know, David, if there's some buttons you can click to amp up your Wi-Fi stuff a bit. But essentially, if you're just joining or you didn't get to hear us on this, because a couple of you have pinged me that the sound is a little bit off. The one of the major things with Disney was just that they that they were. Let me see if I can try some of these different formats here. One of the major things with Disney was the idea that that the creatives were going to take control back over what was going on. And I loved what David had to say as relates to the fact that that you can imagine in the new millennium, it's all about content creation, and Disney, Netflix, no one is totally separated from that. So Bob Jacob, who is really an operations guy, coming in there and separating the creatives from the process. Even though in some ways, probably from his vantage point, it wasn't separated, from Bob's vantage point, it was 100% very much so not the creatives getting a chance to do that full kind of branding of what Disney is. And you and I have talked about this before, David, so I'd love to get your repeat and refresh on your thoughts. The thing that makes Disney unique, I feel like you told me before, is that they don't just think of it as the film experience and I'm done. I see the movie and that's it. Like, they kind of want to own you in a different sort of way. Can you go through some of that?
Yes, yes. One of the things Disney has been doing is that they're creating a wraparound. The movie itself, or the television series that they create, is just one component, right? They're building to having all kinds of items you can buy, toys, T-shirts at the Disney theme parks, over the years as it relates to these different things. Theme coming soon, right? They're going to be building that out, so you can just expect that what they want to do. They understand. And one of the things about Marvel, right, which is important for people to know, is that Marvel comic book, it's an experience, it's a culture, it's a group of people, right? It's a group of people today who read all these comic books, right, and bought all this sort of figurines and new. These are the people that you see sometimes coming out dressing up as the characters when they wait in line for the movies or to go to different. You've heard about all of these different kinds of major events that happen where people come to see the film, and and they talk about what's going on. So people realize is that there's a lot more to Marvel, right? For example, there's a lot more comic books that you're making into a movie, right? So they understand how to really build out what I like to call they're building out a whole bunch of wraparound products, right? Economically, because they understand how to tap into not only its core audience, critical of what they change in the films, right, but also to the general public of people who see their favorite actors who do mostly dramatic work being action star or doing things like that. So I think that's one of the things I have noticed that they've done.
Okay. You know what? We're going to try to take just a half a B here to fix the video. Hey, David, under settings, there's a little ... Can you change the resolution? That might actually speed up and affect the internet a little bit better. It's like, it should be this little ... on the right. Sorry, this kind of fun. Yeah, go to something that's lower so that it'll stop clipping, because the audio is still clipping in a strange way. Let's move on to what is your favorite media company right this minute that we should all know about? And then we'll just start taking some questions to try to kind of move this along a bit, just in case the audio doesn't improve.
All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's a lot better now.
Okay, great. I figured I solved it. It was not the video. It was just the audio I needed to change. All right. Okay. So what was your question again?
get back. The audio's still clipping in this strange way. What would be your favorite media stock right this minute?
What is my favorite media stock right now?
Yeah.
I would say for me that my favorite, my favorite now, I would say would be buying. I'm going to go with Netflix. So I love Netflix, right? So I'm going to say Netflix would be the one right now. I think that Netflix ahead of itself, especially how it's opening itself up to multiple markets, global level. I think Netflix is the one people need to watch. And part of the reason why you need to watch Netflix is because major entertainment media companies, Netflix has built a model by creating, right, in different, in different countries, and then using that to expand its profile. You're seeing Netflix rise up to, in the fourth quarter to have 230. That was more than what they expected. I think they're projected with like about 200 and right, but they went over that, right? So I think that this is the stock to really be. And one other thing that Netflix is doing, if anybody hasn't heard about it, they've bought a lot of land. I believe it's in New Jersey, on studios there, right? So they're going to have their own actual studios to film their productions there. So Netflix is really going beyond just funding films, right? And having to pay other people to figure out where they're going to lot in the studio to film both film and television series. So I think this is something that people need to look out for. Yeah.
David, we got your camera, I think, facing the wrong direction. We're having a little technical difficulties here. Sorry about that, guys. And then the sound quality is still clipping in a really crazy way. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and just take some questions. I don't know if anybody's got some. Go ahead and type them in. I agree with you on Netflix, by the way. Guys, make sure to put your questions into the chat. We'll definitely love taking those. It's really funny because Netflix, I think for a long time, I was both bullish, then I was bearish, then I became bullish again on Netflix. Although from a pure trading perspective, right now it's kind of range bound. I'm really intrigued by what they end up doing because I feel like the thing that really got me excited about them was what is going on the international front. Like for years, I've been like, why can't they do more on international? They just can't get their subscribers up. And then lo and behold, finally, I don't know if it was a price point or what it was, but ultimately and finally, we're starting to see subscriber growth on international, and also what they're doing with international as relates to film is really intriguing.
Well, yeah, yes, right. Think about this when it comes to Netflix, right? The dollar is pretty much more valuable than most, and given that it is the most valuable than most currencies in the world, when they go as in South Korea, right? When they go invest $30 million in South Africa, when they're making multi-million-dollar film industry, right? I mean, that's for them as play money, right? And so they're able to content creators and producers in these different countries, have them create content and put that content among the never ending content, right? And then they're also able to build and gain new audience and new territories that they're entering into, right? And by the way, I say this is something that some of the other be doing right now is they need to be thinking about how they're going to build internationally, not just with taking and expanding it internationally, but how they're going to be able to also, Netflix is doing is they're just franchising themselves. I think they're in 135 different countries right now. Right? That's and they're doing more than just taking U.S. content. And if you go on Netflix, you really have to understand these media platforms, not just from a standpoint of like, is it going to make money? Platforms, and I do use Netflix, right? And so I understand the platform in a way to say, yeah, really doing something big, right? So, and I continue to hear more and more investments going on, more and more international. Yeah. That's what's going to suit them.
David, we're still having problems with your sound quality. So if you can lower your video quality, that might give a little more bandwidth for the sound portion.
Yeah. I have a lower.
You have a lower video quality right now?
Yeah. I have it at standard definition. That's the lowest.
Standard is the lowest. Okay. And then are you using, okay. All right. Well, you know what? We'll just ask one more question that I know is on everybody's mind because it's clipping pretty badly on this side. What do you have any thoughts on like AMC owning so many of the film, like the actual distribution itself? We never got a chance to talk about this. I was like, save it for my show. I know people care a lot. When you think about AMC and the fact that so many of these theaters have completely gone out of business, how do you think about that? You think Netflix is ever going to try to get in the theaters, Apple TV, all these people? What are your thoughts there?
Look, I think the theater experience as we know it and the pandemic was over with. This is why you see theaters shutting down, all around the country, particularly in the middle theaters like, No Tomorrow. Right? Just in the Bay Area alone, we've seen now United Artists has shut down theaters, right? And AMC and United independent theaters, right? Those things have shut down too, right? So I think experience is going to have to be reimagined, right? And to reimagine the theater experience means that you're going to have theater should be having some kind of, I want to call it an event, right? So when Wakanda Forever comes out, it should be a full event. It shouldn't just be go and buy your tickets, get some snacks, and go there, right? We are economically right now. We're probably going to be there for some time. People just don't have time to spend 30, 40, to go and do it. So you need to make it an event to go to a specific theater, the film, in high max, type of theater, right? And then I was saying afterwards is that you need to have a space for people to have conversations about the film, right? To have things go, a bar inside the theater space, right? You put things in there. It's not about games or all that. Really creating a wraparound experience for the theater. So could Netflix get into the theater game? I get into the theater game, but if they were, I don't know that them getting into owning theaters is the best thing. I think if they had certain satellite theaters around the country, and for certain see those films in the theater, that might work. But I think like the Netflix audience or streaming audience for a purpose, right? Because they just don't want to go spend that kind of money to go to the theater, right? On this,
So there's an economic barrier for some of the Netflix stuff. That makes sense.
yeah, economic barrier. People are going to be more likely to pay like I don't know, $18 to $20 to see a filming platform as a standalone, right? Without having to subscribe to it, than they are to necessarily go out to the theater. Now, there's still theater goers. There's still people who want to go. Like I still go to the theater. That was like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I went to the theater because I wanted. That's something you want to see in the theaters. For a lot of the independent films, a lot of the smaller films that they want to get off the ground, and the creatives or theaters or their films are getting seen. Not that many people were going beforehand, right? You see. So I think it really is going to be these sort of experience-based films. So that's what I see happening. We'll still have theaters. There'll be less of them, but they'll be more centralized in the urban areas where you have.
All right, well, I'll close it out because the sound quality is probably annoying. I appreciate all you guys that came into the live cast, but we'll have more of it. Don't worry, we'll have David back a different day when the sound is working a little better. Take care. Happy Friday.